Dreaming of sweet, juicy strawberries fresh from your garden? What if I told you the most crucial work for that doesn't happen in spring, but right now, in autumn? That's right. Fall planting is the secret to an early and incredibly abundant harvest. Today, we'll break down exactly how to plant strawberries in the fall, and, more importantly, highlight common mistakes that could cost you your entire harvest. Trust me, some of these pitfalls are so subtle, you might not even realize why your spring harvest was a disappointment. Stay with us, and your spring harvest will thank you. Many people assume their garden goes dormant in the fall. But for strawberries, this period is a true fresh start. Unlike spring planting, where the plant simultaneously expends energy on rooting and flowering, fall planting gives it a significant head start. The young plants have ample time to establish themselves, develop a robust root system before the first frosts, and then, come spring, dedicate all their energy to producing berries. It's like giving an athlete time to acclimatise before a major competition. Alright, let's dive into mistake number 1, the most common, and arguably the most damaging: poor timing. In gardening, much like in life, getting the timing right is half the battle. What happens if you rush and plant your strawberries, say, in mid-August? The days are still long, and the sun feels like peak summer. Your young plant gets the wrong signal. It thinks summer is in full swing and starts to aggressively put on leafy growth. The leaves become large, beautiful and succulent. But here's the catch. All of the plant's energy is diverted to this above-ground growth. The tops, almost as if it forgets about its roots, the bottoms. Consequently, the root system develops poorly. By the time winter arrives, your plant might look lush, but it will be entirely unprepared. It's like an athlete who spends all their time admiring themselves in the mirror instead of actually training. The first serious cold snap will be a fatal blow. The ideal time for planting is when nature itself signals to the plant. It's time to prepare for winter. This typically means late August for northern regions and throughout September for more temperate zones. As temperatures drop and daylight hours shorten, it's a clear signal for strawberry plants to halt leaf production and instead channel all their energy into developing a robust root system. This is their primary mission for the autumn: to anchor themselves firmly in the soil, store vital nutrients, and brace for the coming cold. Remember this simple rule: complete your planting at least 3 to 4 weeks before the first hard frosts are expected. This crucial window of time is absolutely vital for your strawberry plants to successfully establish their roots. Giving them this head start means laying a strong foundation for a bountiful harvest next year. But then there's the other extreme: planting too late. This is a common pitfall for those who tend to put things off, convinced there's still plenty of warmth, that a couple of extra weeks won't make a difference. But that's a dangerous misconception. Imagine this: you're putting a young plant into already cooling soil. All the vital processes in the ground are slowing down. The plant simply doesn't have enough time or warmth to develop those crucial, fine, absorbent roots that will nourish and anchor it. It's like trying to jump onto the last car of a departing train. The chances of success are almost non-existent. Then the real frosts arrive, and that's when the true trouble begins. A weak, shallow root system can't anchor the sapling in the soil. This leads to what's known as frost heaving. It's when moist soil repeatedly freezes, expands, and then thaws. These movements literally push your defenseless plant out of the ground, leaving its bare roots exposed to the harsh, icy wind and freezing temperatures. Survival in these conditions is virtually impossible. Come spring, all you'll find are dried, lifeless plants in your garden. So, don't try to play catch-up with nature. Winter always arrives on schedule. Now let's talk about choosing the right spot for your strawberries. Here's where many gardeners, especially newcomers, fall into a common trap: the love of shade fallacy. They might think that planting strawberries in a cosy, secluded corner, perhaps under a tree or next to a fence, will make them happier. This is a huge misconception. Strawberries are true sun lovers. They absolutely adore bright light. Planting them in the shade guarantees you'll be growing beautiful green leaves, but very few, if any, actual berries. The plant will stretch desperately for light. producing huge, sprawling leaves, but its efforts will largely end there. To form the flower buds that will eventually develop into sweet berries, strawberries need a lot of energy. And the primary source of energy for any plant is photosynthesis, which simply isn't possible without ample, bright sunlight. In the shade, flowering will be very sparse if it happens at all, and the few berries that do manage to form will never develop their sweetness. They'll be small, sour, and watery, a pale imitation of the fragrant sweet strawberries you envision. What's more, shade combined with dampness creates ideal conditions for fungal diseases, especially grey mould. So remember this as an absolute golden rule. Your strawberry bed must be in the sunniest spot on your property, receiving a minimum of 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight every single day. Continuing our discussion on ideal planting locations, let's turn our attention to another invisible enemy, the draft. You might pick the sunniest spot imaginable, but if it's exposed to harsh winds, winter can quickly turn that advantage into a serious drawback. In winter, snow is your strawberry's best friend and ultimate protector. This fluffy, insulating blanket is nature's most effective thermal shield. With just 20 to 30 centimetres, 8 to 12 inches of snow cover, the ground barely freezes, allowing your strawberries to thrive even in the harshest winter temperatures. Now picture an exposed, windswept area. Relentless winter winds will constantly strip away any accumulating snow, leaving the soil bare and unprotected. Your strawberry patch will be left vulnerable, stripped of its natural winter coat. Consequently, the ground will freeze deeply, and your strawberry plant's root systems will simply perish from the cold. This is particularly critical for young, full-planted strawberries that haven't had enough time to establish deep roots. Therefore, when selecting your site, pay close attention to the prevailing wind patterns, often referred to as the windrows, for your specific area. Ideally, your strawberry bed should be sheltered from the north by a building, fence, or even a dense hedge. However, it's crucial that this protection doesn't cast shade. This is the delicate balance you need to strike, ensuring maximum sun exposure while minimizing damaging winter drafts. Let's talk about the soil. Planting in unprepared, poor soil is like sending our child to school hungry and without textbooks. You're essentially setting them up for failure. For a truly successful start, strawberries need a generous supply of nutrients. The delicate roots of a young plant need to immediately settle into a welcoming environment to begin actively growing and absorbing essential nutrients. If your garden bed has dense, clay-heavy, or nutrient-depleted soil from previous crops, your strawberry plants will struggle to establish themselves, their growth will be stunted, and their leaves will yellow. They will expend all their internal reserves just fighting for survival, rather than focusing on healthy development. That's why preparing your planting bed well in advance is crucial. Give yourself at least 2 to 3 weeks before planting. The soil should be thoroughly dug, loosened, and all weeds removed, especially persistent perennial types like quackgrass or ground elder. And of course, incorporate plenty of organic matter. This could be well-rotted compost or aged manure. These won't just provide your plants with essential nutrients for their initial growth, but also vastly improve the soil structure, making it more friable, aerated, and moisture retentive. This is that vital start-up capital you're providing your strawberries for a strong, confident start in their new home. However, there's a crucial mistake that many gardeners make, often stemming from an excess of enthusiasm. It's the overzealous use of fresh manure. Some gardeners operate on the principle of more fertilizer equals a bigger harvest and generously incorporate fresh, uncomposted cow or horse manure into their soil before planting. This is a critical error. Fresh manure is an incredibly potent and aggressive substance. As it decomposes in the soil, it releases a significant amount of heat and ammonia. Imagine planting a delicate young plant with thin, sensitive roots directly into this chemical furnace. The result is predictable. The roots suffer a severe chemical burn. They essentially scorch and die. A plant without roots cannot absorb water or nutrients from the soil. It quickly wilts, turns black, and perishes. And you'll be left wondering why, despite your best intentions to feed the soil, your plant failed. Furthermore, fresh manure is often a source of weed seeds and pest larvae. Remember this golden rule: for strawberries, use only fully decomposed, aged manure or compost that is at least a year old. It should be dark, crumbly, and have an earthy smell, not an ammonia-like odour. Only in this state will organic matter truly benefit your plants, rather than harming them. Another often overlooked, yet critically important mistake is neglecting soil pH. While we humans might perceive soil acidity as an abstract concept, for a plant, it's a fundamental factor dictating its ability to absorb essential nutrients from the soil. Strawberries thrive in slightly acidic to neutral soil, with an optimal pH range of 5.5 to 6.5. However, if your garden soil is alkaline, or on the flip side, too acidic, for instance, a very peaty soil, your strawberry plants will begin to suffer. In such an unsuitable environment, the plant's root system essentially locks up. It becomes unable to absorb vital micronutrients, especially iron and manganese, even if these elements are plentiful in the soil. The plant develops chlorosis. Its leaves turn pale green, even yellow, while the veins distinctively remain green. The plant appears stunted, grows poorly, and fails to set flower buds. Therefore, before you prepare your strawberry bed, make sure to test your soil's acidity. Simple, inexpensive test strips, readily available at any garden centre, can help you do this. If the soil is too acidic, you'll need to sweeten it by adding dolomitic lime or garden lime. If it's too alkaline, you can acidify it by incorporating sphagnum peat moss or pine needles. This simple step will ensure your strawberries feel right at home and can absorb nutrients efficiently. Let's talk about the actual planting material. Here lies a very common mistake, born from false economy: using old, spent plants from your own garden bed for new plantings. Many people reason, why buy new seedlings when I have my own? I'll just dig up an old bush, divide it and replant it. While that sounds logical, in practice, it's a huge error. A strawberry plant isn't a perpetual motion machine. Its peak productivity occurs in its second and third year of life. After 4 years, it's essentially retired. It has already given its all. Its potential is exhausted. Replanting such a bush is like asking an elderly athlete to set a new world record. It might survive, but you certainly won't get a good harvest from it. What's even worse, over these years, an old plant accumulates a whole host of diseases and pests. Even if it looks healthy on the outside, its roots and tissues can harbour fungal spores, viruses, and nematodes. By replanting it in a new clean spot, you're unwittingly contaminating healthy soil with your own hands. For propagation and planting, you should only use the youngest, strongest plants. These are the primary runner plants that grow from healthy 1 to 2 year old parent bushes. Only such planting material possesses maximum growth energy and is free from the burden of accumulated problems. Attempting to save money by using old plants is a direct path to disappointment. Another common mistake when it comes to planting material is purchasing seedlings from dubious sources. For instance, from casual roadside vendors or unregulated pop-up markets. Sure, these plants might look appealing and come with a lower price tag. However, that seemingly good deal is actually a ticking time bomb. When you buy plants off the street without proper certification or guarantees, you're essentially playing a lottery. For one, you can't be sure of the plant's true variety. You might think you're getting a premium ever-bearing variety, but instead end up with a common mongrel that produces a handful of sour berries and then calls it a day. But that's not even the worst part. What's truly frightening is the potential to introduce destructive pests and diseases to your garden, problems that will be incredibly hard to eliminate later on. Along with those seemingly healthy plants, you could inadvertently introduce unwelcome guests like strawberry mites, nematodes, and weevils, not to mention spores of devastating fungal diseases such as Phytophthora blight and Verticillium wilt. Tackling these scourges will drain your time, energy, and wallet on expensive chemicals, and there's no guarantee you'll win the fight. Frequently, The only recourse is to completely wipe out your entire crop and embark on a lengthy process of soil decontamination. That's why you should always buy your plants from certified nurseries or trusted, well-established gardeners. That slightly higher price is your best insurance against significant future problems. Now let's talk about a critical error that can easily be called the newbie killer. We're referring to incorrect planting depth, specifically burying the plant's crown. What is the crown? It's the plant's growth point, the apical bud, from which all new leaves, flower stalks and runners emerge. You'll find it right at the centre of the plant, at the base of the leaf stems. And here's the crucial rule. This point must be perfectly level with the soil, not above it, and certainly not below it. What happens if you plant your seedling too deeply, completely burying this vital crown with soil? You've unwittingly created the perfect environment for rot. Trapped beneath damp soil, deprived of air, the tender tissue of that growth point begins to decay, becomes vulnerable to fungal infections, and ultimately, it simply rots away. That's it. The plant has no other place to grow from. It's doomed. Even if it appears to survive for a time, sustained by its older leaves, it won't produce any new growth and will inevitably die. This is arguably the #1 reason seedlings die in their first weeks after planting. A gardener might blame the weather, the quality of the starter plants, or anything under the sun. But the real reason often comes down to that single extra inch of soil covering the crown. So, when you plant, make sure to hold the seedling so its crown is exactly flush with the soil surface, and then gently firm the earth around it. However, as is often the case, there's an opposite extreme, planting too shallowly. Some gardeners, overly cautious from hearing warnings about burying the crown too deeply, overcompensate and plant their shrubs so high that they literally look like they're standing on tiptoes. When this happens, not only is the growing point exposed, but also the root collar, the critical juncture where the stem meets the roots, along with the upper portion of the roots themselves. They're left completely vulnerable to the elements. What are the consequences? These exposed roots face two primary threats. First, the relentless combination of sun and wind. They quickly dry out the delicate root tissue, causing the roots to shrivel and die. Even if the surrounding soil is moist, the plant can no longer absorb water and nutrients. It begins to wilt and eventually succumbs to dehydration. The second major threat is winter frost. Unprotected by soil, these exposed roots are the first to bear the brunt of the cold. Even a light freeze can be devastating. They will simply freeze solid, and come spring, the plant won't wake up, it will be dead. This highlights the critical importance of finding that golden mean. The correct way to plant is to ensure the crown is at ground level, with the entire root system, every last rootlet, completely buried beneath the soil. After planting and a thorough watering, the soil will settle naturally, allowing the plant to find its perfect optimal position. The next common mistake growers make is often rooted in a bit of overambition, or, to put it more simply, plain old greed. It's that desire to squeeze every last berry from the smallest possible patch of land. This inevitably leads to overcrowded, densely packed plantings. It's a common misconception. Gardeners often believe that packing more bushes into a square metre will yield a larger harvest. But in reality, the effect is precisely the opposite of what they hope for. When strawberry plants are crammed too close together, like passengers on a rush hour bus, problems inevitably arise. Firstly, intense competition kicks in. Plants begin to fiercely compete for everything: sunlight, water, and vital soil nutrients. In this struggle, only the strongest plants flourish, while their weaker neighbours often become stunted and produce very little, if any, fruit. Secondly, and this is perhaps the most dangerous consequence, overcrowded plantings create an ideal breeding ground for diseases and pests. The leaves of adjacent plants touch and overlap, forming a dense, suffocating canopy. This stops proper air circulation, and a constant high humidity is trapped underneath. An ideal environment for the rapid development of diseases like grey mould and powdery mildew. Berries lying on the damp ground or touching diseased leaves often rot away completely before they even have a chance to ripen. Therefore, always adhere to the recommended planting guidelines. The optimal spacing is 30 to 40 centimetres between plants within a row, and no less than 60 to 70 centimetres between rows. While your bed might look a bit sparse at first, by the following summer, your plants will have filled out beautifully, and you'll realise that this careful planning was absolutely the right decision. One critical mistake, often made out of carelessness, is to overlook the initial watering. In autumn, rain is frequent. The soil often looks moist, and many gardeners think, why bother watering? Nature will take care of it. However, that initial watering after planting serves a unique and extremely important purpose. When you dig a hole, place your plant into it, and then backfill with soil, small gaps, air pockets, inevitably remain around the roots. In these air pockets, the roots are suspended, unable to make proper contact with the soil. This means they cannot absorb the vital water and nutrients needed for growth. For a delicate young plant, this is a significant stressor, greatly slowing down the crucial rooting process. And this is precisely why a generous watering immediately after planting is so crucial. The water penetrates the soil, displaces those air pockets, and causes the earth to settle snugly and tightly around every single root, even the tiniest one. This establishes that vital, ideal contact between the root system and the soil, which is absolutely essential for a strong, quick start. So, even if the ground feels damp, don't be tempted to skip this step. As soon as you finish planting all your bushes, give the entire bed a generous soaking. Aim for about half a litre to a full litre of water per plant. This isn't merely about hydration. It's a critical horticultural practice that will ensure your strawberries get a rapid and successful start in their new home. Now, let's talk about a mistake many gardeners don't even think about: unsuitable previous crops. This refers to the plants that grew in a particular bed before your strawberries. It's much like choosing roommates. Some will get along wonderfully, while others can create significant issues. The absolute worst preceding crops for strawberries are all members of the nightshade family, including potatoes, tomatoes, eggplants, and peppers. And why is that? Because they share common enemies with strawberries: dangerous fungal and viral diseases whose pathogens can persist in the soil for years. We're primarily talking about late blight and verticillium wilt. If you plant strawberries in a bed where, for instance, potatoes grew last year, you're exposing them to a massive risk of infection. Pathogens lingering in the soil will easily attack the young vulnerable root system. The plant will suddenly wilt, its leaves will yellow, and saving it will be practically impossible. Cucumbers, zucchini, and all types of cabbage are also considered poor preceding crops. On the flip side, strawberries' best friends, the crops after which they'll truly thrive, include garlic, onions, carrots, beets, legumes, like peas and beans, and cover crops, especially mustard and phacelia. These not only don't share common diseases but actually help to enrich and vitalise the soil. So, plan your garden well in advance, always adhering to good crop rotation practices. Next up, let's address a common mistake I like to call planting prep neglect. This involves ignoring the proper preparation of the seedlings themselves. Many simply pull their young plants straight from the tray or pot and pop them directly into the ground, just as they are. However, a few simple steps can significantly boost their chances of successful establishment and make life much easier for them. First, take a careful look at the root system. If you've purchased bare root seedlings, their roots might be excessively long, sometimes reaching 15 to 20 centimetres. Such long roots are difficult to properly arrange in the planting hole. They often end up kinked or bent upwards, which is highly detrimental. Therefore, don't hesitate to trim them back, leaving roughly 7 to 10 centimetres. This won't harm the plant at all. In fact, it will encourage the growth of new, vital feeder roots. Secondly, turn your attention to the leaves. Often seedlings will have old, damaged, yellowed, or spotted leaves. These should be ruthlessly removed, leaving only the 2 or 3 healthiest, youngest leaves at the plant's core. Why? To prevent the plant from wasting precious energy and moisture on maintaining these old, unnecessary leaves. All its energy after planting should be focused on one main goal: establishing a strong root system. Less foliage means less moisture loss, making it easier for the seedling to overcome transplant shock. These simple actions take just a few seconds per plant, but they provide immense support to the seedling during the crucial initial phase of its new life. The next common pitfall, and it's a truly strategic one, is choosing the wrong plant variety. Often, especially for beginner gardeners, the allure of a beautiful picture or a catchy name leads them to buy plants without ever considering if that specific variety is truly suited for their climate zone. For instance, imagine you live in a region like the Urals or Siberia, known for its brutal, snowy winters and fleeting summers, and then you purchase a gorgeous, large-fruited Italian or Spanish variety, the kind that happily produces 3 harvests a year along the Mediterranean coast. What do you think will happen? Chances are, this delicate southern specimen simply won't survive its first winter, even with protective covering. Its genetic programming just isn't designed for such frigid temperatures. It will inevitably freeze out, and even if it somehow miraculously makes it through, a short and often cool summer means it simply won't have the chance to reach its full potential. The fruit will be smaller, less sweet, and expecting multiple harvests will be completely out of the question. That's why it's crucial to always select regionally adapted or proven varieties. These are the ones that have been specifically developed or thoroughly tested right in your local area. They are perfectly suited to the local climate, from the length of daylight and soil characteristics to, most importantly, possessing the essential winter hardiness required to thrive. Information about a variety's regional adaptation should be the very first thing you look for when buying. It's your best guarantee that your time, effort, and money won't go to waste. Here's a common mistake many gardeners make. After all the hard work of planting is done, neglecting to mulch. You've got your plants in the ground, given them a good drink, and then you leave your garden until spring, feeling satisfied. But this is a crucial oversight. Bare, uncovered soil is the worst possible scenario for young plants trying to survive the winter. First, it freezes incredibly fast. The icy cold easily penetrates deep into the soil, reaching those delicate, often not fully established roots. Secondly, bare soil is highly susceptible to drastic temperature fluctuations. On a sunny autumn day, it might thaw slightly, only to freeze solid again overnight. As we've mentioned before, these constant freeze-thaw cycles can cause plants to heave right out of the soil. Mulch acts as that vital blanket that solves both of these problems. A layer of mulch, about 5 to 7 centimetres or 2 to 3 inches thick, works like a thermal insulator. It moderates daily temperature swings, prevents the soil from freezing too quickly, and shields roots from harsh, icy winds. Underneath the mulch, the environment remains far more stable, allowing your plants to feel much more comfortable. For mulching, you can use fallen leaves from healthy trees, straw, hay, pine needles, peat moss, or well-rotted sawdust. It's important not to apply the mulch immediately after planting. Instead, wait until the first consistent frosts arrive and the top layer of soil has just begun to firm up. This simple technique significantly boosts your strawberry plant's chances of successfully surviving the winter. This is another classic example of good intentions leading to unintended consequences. We're talking about applying nitrogen fertilizers in autumn. The gardener's logic is clear. You want to help the plant establish itself, to give it some food, and your hand naturally reaches for that bag of ammonium nitrate or urea. But in autumn, this is actually a huge disservice to your plants. Nitrogen is the primary driver of lush green growth. It's responsible for vigorous leaf and shoot development. In spring and early summer, it's absolutely essential. But in autumn, its effect is detrimental, even destructive. When a strawberry plant, already preparing for its winter dormancy, receives a dose of nitrogen, it gets completely the wrong signal. It's almost as if it hears, "Alert! Grow immediately!" And instead of channeling all its energy into developing a strong root system and setting flower buds for the following year, it starts vigorously pushing out new, tender leaves. This delicate, succulent foliage is absolutely unprepared for the cold. It doesn't have time to mature and harden off. The first serious frost will simply wipe it out. The plant has expended precious energy and resources on this pointless growth, weakening itself right before winter. As a result, it will go into dormancy, unprepared and depleted. If you want to fertilise your autumn plantings, use only phosphorus and potassium-based fertilisers. Phosphorus promotes the development of a strong root system, while potassium improves winter hardiness and disease resistance. Save the nitrogen for spring. Let's debunk a common myth that often leads to disappointment: the trap of unrealistic expectations. Many gardeners, after planting strawberries in the autumn, anticipate harvesting buckets of large, sweet berries as early as the very first spring. Alas, it doesn't quite work that way. The main purpose of autumn planting isn't to get an immediate harvest. Its goal is to give the plant ample time and opportunity to establish strong roots, develop a robust, healthy root system, and set as many flower buds as possible. It's an investment in the future. Yes, in the first summer after autumn planting, your strawberry bushes will likely bloom and produce some berries. But consider this a signal harvest. There won't be many berries, and they might not be the largest. And that's perfectly normal. During this initial season, the plant still needs to dedicate a lot of energy to growing and developing the bush itself. Some experienced gardeners even recommend removing all flower stalks in the first year to prevent the plant from expending energy on fruiting, allowing it to instead focus on forming a strong, vigorous bush. The real, full, abundant harvest, the one you've truly been aiming for, will come in the second year. That's when your overwintered, strengthened and well-established plant will truly demonstrate its full potential. So be patient. Autumn planting is a long game, and the main prize awaits you. The final mistake on our list is a psychological one, often called the plant it and forget it approach. A gardener might complete all the planting tasks, perhaps even mulch the beds, and then believe their mission for the year is accomplished, thinking there's nothing left to do until spring. However, that's not entirely accurate. Even in autumn, young plantings still require your attention. First, keep an eye on the weather. If you're experiencing a dry and warm autumn with little rain, you'll need to water the soil periodically. Dry soil can be very dangerous for young seedlings that haven't fully established their root systems yet. Check the moisture level of the soil under the mulch. It should remain moderately damp. Second, regularly inspect the young plants themselves. You might find that some aren't taking well, with their leaves wilting. It's best to replace such a seedling with a new one promptly, while there's still time. Or perhaps you'll notice that after heavy rain or watering, the crown of a plant has become caked with mud. This needs to be carefully cleared away to prevent it from rotting. Furthermore, autumn is when slugs are active and can damage tender young leaves. And weeds don't rest either. A regular inspection of your beds, at least once a week, will allow you to spot and address any minor issues before they escalate. Your strawberries should feel your care right up until they're covered by snow. But if I had to pick just two of the most critical, often fatal mistakes that kill most young plants, they would be incorrect planting depth and wrong timing. Imagine this: you've done everything perfectly, chosen the ideal spot, prepared the soil, bought the best young plants, but then, during planting, you buried the crown, the plant's growth point, just 1 centimetre too deep. And that's all it takes. It will rot, and the plant is doomed. Or, on the flip side, you planted it too shallow, and the very first frost killed its defenceless roots. This isn't just a mistake, it's a death sentence for your plant. And the timing error deprives the plant of its most crucial autumn advantage: enough time to establish its roots. By planting too late, you're essentially leaving it to freeze, never giving it a chance to properly take hold. These two factors are true game changers, often separating a successful gardener from a frustrated one. So, autumn strawberry planting isn't just about moving a plant into the ground. It's a strategic operation where timing, location, depth, and proper preparation are all crucial. By avoiding these seemingly simple, yet critical errors, you lay the foundation for an amazing harvest next year. Thanks for watching to the end. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on new gardening secrets. What's your experience with autumn strawberry planting? Have you encountered any of these mistakes? Or maybe you have your own personal life hack or tip. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to read them.